You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy starship has been designed.
Transporter Chief, beam our listeners aboard. Welcome to Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Counselor Amy Nelson. And today, listeners, all my hosts have abandoned me and I can't do this show alone. So I have invited Stephen King. No, not the author. Stephen is a fabulous Star Trek fan who we have had the pleasure of meeting, hanging out with, and I wanted to invite him to Galaxy Class. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you, Amy.
Well, how are you feeling? This is your very first podcast, am I correct?
That is correct.
Yes. Now we have known each other, Stephen. My goodness, how long?
It's let's see here, just over 3 years. Although it feels like
Was it
forever.
2019 at STLV
Did
where
we
we
meet there?
met?
You know what? I think you're correct.
Yeah. Yes. And then we went through the pandemic together, had our weekly Zoom meetings. You have now been on the cruise. You continue to come out to STLV. So very happy to be having you here.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
So just tell our listeners a little bit, like, what's your Star Trek story? When did you first start watching?
Yeah, so I was introduced to Star Trek when Next Generation first aired. I was quite small, very young, back in 1987. And my dad was always interested in technology and science fiction. And so I remember watching this with my father as a kid. And little did we know that would start a lifelong fandom.
Very good. Oh, so what's your favorite Star Trek series now that we've had so much more than when you started?
Oh gosh, when I ask folks this question, I give the caveat of they can choose from the original 5 or 6, including the animated series, right? Or the newer Trek. So I'm going to answer it in that way.
Okay.
From our sort of first group of series, Next Gen was my entry point. It'll always have a very important place in my heart. So Next Gen is probably my favorite series from the first grouping. From the new series, I really loved Picard.
Mhm.
And I have really high hopes for Strange New Worlds. It's been fantastic so far, and I'm so excited to see what they're going to come up with next.
I know, coming to us next month in June. Yes. What about the movies? What's your favorite movie?
Oh, I think Wrath of Khan is
Okay.
really my favorite movie. Um, uh, it just has all the great makings and workings of solid movies. It's solid sci-fi. And who doesn't like a space battle, right?
Exactly. Yeah, very good. Listeners, Stephen is out in New York, and I just wanted to say also when I went out to visit him, we went to the Ticonderoga set rebuilding and had such an amazing time. That was so incredible.
The Star Trek tour is such an incredible opportunity to experience the Enterprise, right?
Mhm.
We actually get to walk through the set as it was envisioned back in the 60s.
Yeah. The tour guides we went with were fabulous, so knowledgeable. I mean, and you could interact, and it was like, can we touch it? Oh, yeah, you can touch it. It's like, oh, it's even better than a museum. Like,
And I like that the guides also really were knowledgeable, right? They're folks younger than us, really, and
Mhm.
they knew their stuff. This prop was used on this episode in this way, this et cetera, et cetera. They really know their stuff, and it's such a welcoming place to be, and such
Mhm.
a strange place for this to exist in Ticonderoga, New York.
In the middle of nowhere. But if you do go, beautiful area, take time to explore Ticonderoga. Oh, they have a great pencil factory there. That was a highlight for me as a math teacher.
That's great, and it's right on the edge of Adirondack Park. So those of you that love the outdoors, you are right there.
Yeah, yeah, that was such a fun trip. Oh, memories.
Logs accessed.
Well, let's check the communication array to see if we have any comments. And no comments, listeners. Oh my goodness. Well, today.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
Yeah, I think that soundbite is from season 2, which is very fitting because we are covering a season 2 episode, Samaritan Snare. We're continuing our listener's choice, and Stephen is a listener, and he has chosen this episode, season 2 episode. So, Stephen, remind our listeners what in the heck this episode's about and why you wanted to discuss this one today.
Sure. So, Samaritan Snare, season 2, episode 17. So, en route to the Epsilon 9 sector for an astronomical survey of a new pulsar cluster, Dr. Pulaski informs Captain Picard that he must report to Starbase 515, where it's revealed that Picard needs a cardiac replacement. After the captain and Wesley, who was already reporting to Starbase 515 for Starfleet exams, depart, the Enterprise picks up a distress call. Enter the Pakleds. So this episode sees Riker commanding the Enterprise through a hostage situation and reveals Picard's ego regarding his image as a leader.
This episode, I think, has a really good balance between these two story plots, and they're so not connected, but yet still work together. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. I appreciated why I like this episode so much is that it shows Picard as a vulnerable man. I think up till now in Next Gen, he is seen as the leader. He is confident. He is knowledgeable. He is resourceful. And here we see him as a vulnerable person. His pride and ego get in the way of taking care of himself. His desire to be seen as strong and in control sort of usurp his ability to use his pending heart replacement as an example to his crew for taking care of themselves. Sort of the main plot there, right? The introduction of the Pakleds and Geordi's abduction and subsequent retrieval, introduces us to a species that are interesting because they both pose a threat, but are also kind of serving as comic relief.
They do. They have that duality in this show because they are quite funny, but there's something to be contended with. So, yeah. That's very interesting. I didn't think of it as like Picard, saying, yeah, you got to take care of yourself because you never know what's going to happen. And it still wasn't his heart transplant. Something was default. And I think Wesley asked a good question. It's like, why would you get a defective heart put in you?
It's funny, that question, that stuck out to me too. And I see it as it's only season 2 of this new series. They don't know where they're going. And I think it was just a poorly written line because I think that realistically, right, 24th century, like this heart's going to be top quality, right? So I'm sure, they didn't use a defective component on purpose. I think it was an important plot point to make this happen. But Wesley's question seemed very childish and sort of, I don't know. I think it's still early writing, right, for Next Gen.
Yeah. And cute Will Wheaton is just so young. Oh, he's so those eyes, like when he's talking to Picard. Oh, just yeah.
I like how Will Wheaton played him with a bit of hero worship. And I don't know how much of that was intentional or just that Patrick Stewart is, as an actor, imposing and and sort of awe-inspiring. But it works really well, I think, for the character.
Yeah, and I mean, even to this day on like the Ready Room, will say, I just love them. These are my family. This is who raised me. And that adoration still continues. And this is a very good episode with, yeah, his bright young eyes looking up to his heroes. In fact, you bring up a very touching moment, which I noticed as well. Like when Wesley is talking to Picard and it's like, it's all clear that, you don't like kids. And it's like, too bad. You would have made a good father. Oh,
That, and it's a very sweet moment. It's a very pure moment, I think, between Wesley and his commanding officer, but also, knowing this history of like he knew his father and he's close with his mother. But I also thought that, now having watched Star Trek Picard all the way through, it's especially endearing that Wesley Crusher, right, is saying this thing to Picard of you would have made a good father, and then fast forward where he is a father to Wesley's half brother, and I thought that was a really neat tie-in. Just a kind of a throwaway comment, but has a lot more meaning now.
right. Oh my gosh, yes. And now, like once Picard realized who Jack was, and that moment when he was saving Jack and is like, well, if you don't want to leave, I'll stay here with you. Like the sacrifice of, yes, Picard is making a good father.
It's great to see.
Oh, full circle. Oh, Picard was so good. So good.
Definitely. One of the things that I thought was really striking in this is, in the beginning of the episode, Picard is really clear in so many ways that he does not want his crew, let alone his senior officers, to know what's going on, right? He's Riker offers to take care of business for him. He's like, no, you can't do this. And Captain's prerogative. And Geordi sees him in the hallway on the way to the shuttlecraft, and he's sort of like open-ended question, and Picard's ignoring it, right? But then on this shuttle, he confides in Wesley, this junior officer who, they've not had the best sort of interactions from the start, right? Like, what's this child doing on my bridge, etc. But here he is confiding in this person, and I think that also is another nod toward his parental abilities or capacity. That he maybe I'm putting too much thought into this, but it seems like he realizes this is a young person who could benefit from some real talk, and I really appreciated that confidence he shares.
Absolutely. And I did find it a little weird that he would tell Wesley, but again, only once they're in the shuttlecraft, like on their way, and not inform Riker why he's going. That just seems like a huge misstep, that it's like, okay, Captain is leaving the ship and you have no idea why, what the purpose is, maybe for how long. But it's like, Picard's off and we're going to go do this mission. If something were to happen, like it does, Riker
Right.
has no information, and therefore it could lead him to a possible misstep or a poor choice in the future. And I thought that was a misstep in the writing.
I agree. I think that what we've seen in other series, other ships, other commands, the captain's business really is also the first officer's business, at least the first officer's business. And not knowing where he's or what's happening, right? Why he has to go away suddenly, knowing that he was interested in this cluster, this pulsar cluster. It does seem like a misstep in the writing. It doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah. But to that point, like it's really showing, as you mentioned, his ego and not wanting anyone to know about his personal life. So it does make it more understandable that way, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that. Should we talk about the Pakleds?
Yes. Oh my goodness. They show up in Lower Decks, don't they?
They sure do.
Yeah.
And I found it especially amusing to see this first encounter, having also more recently seen where they're at in Lower Decks, And you can sort of see how this is the beginning of that story arc, and it's amusing. I think it added a level of foreshadowing and whimsy that we couldn't have possibly known we first saw this episode when it first aired.
Yeah. And we also get Sonia Gomez in Lower Decks as well, who is, seen here again. It's nice. So Riker, I feel, and of course, this is just for story plot, because I don't think that Riker is so stereotypical, but he makes this huge assumption based off of his first impressions of like how they're speaking, I'm assuming how they're dressed, how they're running and their ship. Like he just automatically assumes that these are a bunch of dimwits. That's pretty harsh to see our loved crews make such a rash jump to conclusions.
And I think it's absolutely correct. And I think that it was striking to me how this all kind of began, right? So there were lots of assumptions made about the species. Oh, Data, what do we know about these? Oh, they're relatively benign. Troy is not even on the bridge when this all starts. The person who's usually there to say, oh, I sense this. Like, she's not even there at the beginning. And I thought it was really interesting to see how Worf's warnings were dismissed out of hand. So our tactical officer is saying, hey, red flags, right? And Riker's like, it's fine. They're fine. No big deal.
Yeah. I mean, Worf is right all the time in this episode and is completely dismissed. Yes, Worf's so correct. You do not send your chief engineer with no other security. What on earth? That doesn't even make sense. At least send 2 other security officers with him.
Sure. And that was even a quote from the episode was, must we send our chief engineer?
Yes.
Well, no, you could send anyone, right? It's a simple repair. Why send the chief engineer? I mean, the reality is, right, it makes for an excellent episode. It adds to the plot. It moves the plot forward. But in terms of Starfleet protocol and the starship functioning, it makes no sense.
And Troy's not on the bridge, and she comes in with, this feeling that Geordi's in danger. And it's like, well, maybe she was doing some counseling with some other crew. That's what's going on in my mind.
Sure.
Yeah. And then when Data discovers that the breakdown from the Pakleds was just a ruse, I was like, okay, now we're dealing with someone. And then they're seeing like the, what was it? Their weapons or something was stolen from the Romulans?
They had things, they said there was, what was it? Shields from the Romulans. There was something from the Klingons. There was something from the Harada. Like they clearly had taken multiple components from multiple people. And I think it was Troy, it might have been Data that said, they're clearly trying to, they're not willing to wait for their evolutionary growth and figuring these things out on their own. They just want to be stronger, better, faster, because that's a priority for their species.
Mm-hmm. And when Troy, she said that line, it was so ominous. And he's like, well, what do they want? And she's like, they have exactly what they want. They have Geordi. Whoo, that gave me the chills.
I also found it interesting in this episode, the way the technology of the Enterprise was described, right? So there's this, they do a sensor sweep when they first see the ship, it's really primitive, right? Compared to a Galaxy class ship's standards. But later on, there's like a more in-depth sensor sweep that identifies these other things, and then there's when they force the visual, right, the visual communication. Like, where did all this come from, and why didn't we do this earlier? Right? Like if there's an ability to do a deeper sensor sweep, I think that adds into that sense that Riker had at the beginning of face value, this is fine.
Yeah. When I was doing some research, Les Landau, who's a writer on the series, says, I dealt with a race of what appeared to be ugly and slow people. They have a need for things which can be a reflection of our society. That's what Star Trek tried to do. Take an almost unbelievable situation in an unbelievable time and somehow make all of us realize that's what's happening today. And what we can do to make the planet and the universe a better place. I think that is the essence of Star Trek and the tradition Roddenberry is trying to carry on. And I love that you're looking at, here's a race. And again, this people that are being judged, right? Ugly and slow is what Les says. Riker jumping to the conclusion of, and Geordi too. Oh, great conversationalist. Like they're mocking the Pakleds, but they have a quality to them that outsmarted them for the meantime. And like, okay, can we take that and apply it to our lives to not make these just rash stereotypes? I was thinking of people with autism and on the spectrum. Like they can be judged very harshly. Like they're not reading, communication cues. They're not having a good conversation. So they could be perceived, and I don't think so, as slow or ugly people. But we can't do that because look at the outcome that could have. Everyone has value. The Pakleds have value. Yeah, they're trying to skip and, not learn everything on the immediately, but there's value there. And we need to not make those just harsh judgments about type of people.
I think you've hit on something there that makes me think about sort of where the Pakleds go from here and how this is maybe a missed opportunity, right? So, in our society, right, we want to think about how we as humans want to understand what we're experiencing. We want to try to make sense of things. We make up our own stories for things based on our biases, our experiences. And Riker did this, right? Geordi did this. Even Data to a point, which is interesting for him as an android, right? And had there been a moment or thought put to the species, right? The Pakleds are doing something because they have a desire to be more, better, further developed than where they're actually at in terms of their evolutionary growth. And this could have been an opportunity for the Federation, for the Enterprise to say, hey, here's some folks that have knowledge beyond what they would have otherwise, right? They're aware of other planets and interplanetary travel. How can we mentor them? How can we try to work within their needs and their wants to I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, right? So, because I think it's important. There's a long history of colonization and acculturation, and folks coming and saying, "I see what you need," and really taking over a culture, and in some ways destroying it. So, I'm not trying to offer that as an option, but thinking through more of had there been some more friendship between the Federation and the Pakleds, maybe they wouldn't have gotten to the place where we see them in lower decks.
Yes, and that gets me thinking about like there's never a wrong time to show compassion and to be nice. Like I totally get Riker out there like, okay, everyone's gone through Starfleet Academy, like everyone knows, okay, we're going to come across this race, here's the protocols, here's what we have to do. Like we as Starfleet officers have been trained on how to do that. Pakleds have not, we're assuming. So that time of teaching in, say, like Riker's mind, it's like, you're already out in space. You should already have achieved ABC, but they haven't. So yeah, it's a missed opportunity for him to show compassion and say, hey, this is what we've learned. Let's do this. And yeah, do a little bit of mentoring there.
It's similar to the way the Vulcans worked with Earth, right? After first contact, being mindful of, I think, my understanding from Enterprise is the Vulcans were pretty mindful of their impact on human culture. but then we're there to be a guiding hand, and I think this could have been an opportunity for the Federation to do that with the PAC-LEDs, that might have avoided a lot of unfortunate circumstances later in their future.
Yes, because when the Vulcans first met us, we were the PAC-LEDs.
Yes, right. To them, we were backwards, and I appreciate the connection you made to folks with different abilities, right? Different, folks on the autism spectrum, folks that visually, face value, first contact, if you will, may seem like something that we're assuming, right? Without taking the opportunity to get to know someone, to understand their circumstance, to really be thoughtful about the whole individual. I think that's a great sort of correlation to how we can be better as human beings to each other.
Yeah.
We can seize that opportunity that Riker missed.
Yes, and that's why we love Star Trek. This right there.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about it sort of, as Riker's in his career, older, mature, doing this. And it's like, yeah, you expect when you come across someone out in space with warp capabilities that they are going to be similar to where you are at. And I was talking with my brother who's in construction, and he's complaining that there's no quality workers out there. They don't know their fractions. They can't even read a measuring tape and and it's like, yeah, when you're in the workplace, you expect there to be a certain level of, competency and efficiency. When you don't get it, you're like, what in the heck is going wrong? So then you go, all right, what's going on with the education? And at that point, like, teachers in general, as it was just Teacher Appreciation Week last week, their level of patience has to be greater. Well, I don't know. I guess I won't say that, because I need to have the patience, because I literally am training them and mentoring them. When you get out to the workplace, I think people's patience drop, and it's like, if you're asking for this job, you should already be qualified. So I can see there's a little disconnect there.
I think that there's also something to be said for on-the-job training, right? So when you're hiring someone for any kind of position, right, there is an assumption of a base level of experience, tools, knowledge, skills that someone's bringing into it, right? And that's what the job description is for. We need minimum these things. How much do we think about where we are generationally? How much are we aware of what these folks are being taught in school, like K through 12, in higher education? We think about things that we take for granted. It was somewhat recently I learned that students no longer learn cursive.
Right.
and while I don't know that that's really any great impact on their future life's work, it's something I'm not aware of, right? And so if I didn't know that, and that's a pretty big shift in how we as a society learn to write, what else do I not know about? So when I'm hiring someone who's younger, and I have this assumption of knowledge based on my experience, and it's not correct, right? So are we then responsible for teaching these things on the job? So I work in higher education, as you know, and some of that is what I do, right? Like we teach sort of those life skills, and even having to discern what those needs are changes from year to year. Like I always work. I get older, right? We get older, but our students are the same age bracket.
Yes.
If they're in a similar developmental stage, always. And so while we're, I think, trained well as educators to work within those contexts, a piece we don't always know is culturally, societal norms. How is that changing? And how do we incorporate that into how we're teaching, how we're educating, how we're managing our expectations of new generations?
Yes, managing our expectations. I mean, I'm just finishing up 23 years of teaching. And when I compare, like you said, I've been dealing with the same age group. And as I look back, I can see shifts, and they are either good or bad. It was funny. I saw this little thing. I don't know. Someone sent it to me on TikTok or something. And And it was like this. It was a challenge. Write your name without picking up your pencil. Welcome to cursive.
Right. Gen Z just invented cursive.
Yeah, did you send that to me? Was that?
I think I did.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there is, now that we're discussing, this common thread of helping and mentoring, because I think Wesley and Picard have a really interesting dynamic where they're now, I guess, introducing Picard as being a mentor, because that scene where they're in the shuttlecraft and Picard's talking about, well, did you read this great work of art and whatever? And Wesley's like, I started. And he's like, Wesley, you need to understand all the great classics of philosophy and languages. And he went on this list of things that you have to know, in hopes of being a mentor, of saying, it's not just about your math, science, and English, or standard language, whatever you're going to
Sure.
learn. Like, you want to develop more to be this well-rounded, so that the more you are exposed, the better you're going to be in these new situations.
Definitely. In fact, I actually wrote down a quote from the episode that
Good.
I really thought was wonderful. Picard says, this is in direct response to the book, right? Picard's asked, have you read the book I gave you? Wesley's like, some of it. I'm really busy. This won't be on the Starfleet Academy exams. And Picard says, anyone can be trained in the mechanics of piloting a starship. Starfleet Academy takes more. Open your mind to the past, art, history, philosophy. Then all this might mean something.
Yeah. Because you're getting to the culture of it all. Like, it's that culture that, and that context, that gives us meaning. Oh, so good. So good.
Definitely. So,
But at the
okay.
beginning, Wesley was pretty hesitant to be spending so much time one-on-one with Captain Picard, who he already knows doesn't like kids. And I find it cute. And we see this. Wesley does this a lot. He'll go to, others and be like, all right, you got to help me out. What am I going to do? What am I going to talk to the captain about? And I just thought that was so, like, I think as a kid, you don't really know when you're asking for help, like how humbling that is. But as an adult, seeing that's like, yeah, I need to be humble. If I'm not knowing how to go about a situation, I need guidance. And I think there's that similarity between the two storylines.
I agree. The ability to A, recognize when you need help, and then B, make that ask. Those are life skills, and something that I see that Wesley is always seeking knowledge, right? Wesley's always trying to learn more, to grow in his various roles, right? And so because of that, I think he naturally asks a lot of questions, and had to learn sort of the parameters in which those questions are appropriate in terms of a starship and chains of command. But even on the shuttlecraft ride with Picard, he asks some questions that I feel like officers wouldn't necessarily ask, but I appreciate the ask, right? Like he mentions, it's really a statement than a question. You'd prefer Commander Riker as a travel companion.
Yeah.
And Picard, what? Picard, it's something that I think, were any other ensign, that's not the conversation they would have. But because of Wesley's personal connection to Picard through his mother, through his former friendship with his father, he's able to say these things to Picard in a really honest and innocent way. And I like that Picard kind of takes that into an opportunity to mentor a little bit. He answers his questions, right? He gives them the ability to feel confident in having asked those questions or made those statements. And that's a really wonderful atmosphere within which to grow.
Yeah. And Picard continues being a mentor when he's explaining, his story about the Nausicaans and why he needs this new heart. It's like, don't be young and brash like me. This was a stupid thing, and now I'm paying for it all these years later. Great mentoring there.
Definitely. When Picard finishes the story and Wesley asks, "What next?" and Picard says, "Nothing. I wasn't a hero, Wesley."
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. I may have said something about the Nausicaans' parentage or whatever he said.
Dubious parentage. As a kid, I didn't get that. And as an adult, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Goodness. He was brash.
Exactly. We would never hear Picard throwing insults like that.
No.
Oh, I really like this episode because it's sort of a continuation of Wesley's story of him going to take the Starfleet exams when a year ago in Coming of Age, that's when he took them for the first time and failed. And then Picard's like, well, you will retake those exams next year. And here it is, season 2, taking the exams. That's a nice nod and continuity.
Definitely. It's nice to see the thought process behind keeping characters moving along, even if it's just a mention in an episode a season later. It's continuing their growth.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Thinking back about Picard's sort of vulnerability and his approach to not wanting folks to know about his heart replacement, I thought it interesting. So this is we're over halfway through season 2. We see Picard as a strong leader. He doesn't like kids. There's certain things we kind of know about Picard. I think that this episode was an opportunity to see, initially at least, some growth in him as a character. And I found it interesting that the writers chose at the end. So even when Dr. Pulaski saves his life, right, his image is still more important to him than the fact that he's here, right? And I'll say, even though I adore Dr. Crusher, I like that season 2 sees Picard and other crew members challenged by Dr. Pulaski. She pulls no punches. She also has her own human failings. I appreciate what Dr. Pulaski brings to season 2. I know that's a mixed bag. Some folks really don't like her. I appreciate the mix she brings to the senior staff and how she kind of forces them in some ways to grow, right? Because she's just like, no, this is what it is.
Oh, yeah, you are right. She throws all the punches at Picard, and he even looks at Wesley like, why do I feel like you're accompanying me or you're, my escort? And it's like, Dr. Pulaski asked to make sure that you got in here. And, that woman, I love it because, yes, it needs to be done. And a good doctor is going to make sure that stubborn captains do what they need to do to take care of their health. Love that. Yeah.
Something that I thought was interesting too, and this is something I'm not super well versed on in terms of Next Gen. When I think of shuttlecrafts, I think of the shuttlecraft Goddard, right? Partially because of the Playmates toy that I had as a child. It's like that's the shuttlecraft in the Enterprise. But this shuttlecraft, number 2, which is the Einstein, they're flying at subwarp speed. I guess I have a really clear picture in my head of what shuttlecraft look like, and this is not it.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
No. I'm like, it's just a smaller ship to me. But I did notice in, again, research, the stock footage from that shuttlecraft leaving is from Unnatural Selection and Q Who. However, that footage says shuttlecraft 01. And in the original DVDs, that's what it says. But in the Blu-ray, it was changed because Wesley says they're going in shuttlecraft 2. A little bit of trivia for you.
That's great.
Yeah. So, I totally, as you were talking about Picard, not wanting anyone to know about his surgery and stuff totally reminds me, and maybe it is a little ego on my part. When I had weight loss surgery, I didn't tell anyone. I just didn't. Like, first of all, it's none of your business. And two, I didn't want all the negativity of, oh, I know someone who got that and they gained all their weight back. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. This is me, not them. And so maybe there was a little ego where it's like, yeah, I don't want to tell you. And I don't know. I just was thinking about that.
Well, especially when it comes to medical things, I think
Mm-hmm.
that we have a sense of vulnerability, right? Like this thing's going to happen, and regardless of what the truth is around it, there's some level of sense of my body's failing me, or part of my body's failing me, or there's something
Yeah.
that's weaker that feels
Mm-hmm.
and regardless of the strength it takes to have a surgery like heart surgery, or being mindful of, okay, this is important to me and I want to have weight loss surgery, we still have these feelings of insecurity, of vulnerability, this desire to protect ourselves, and I think it's less
Yeah.
likely that we like see the ability to have the ability to have this seen as a point of strength.
Right, exactly, because that's exactly right, Stephen. Because for me, it was a failing on my part. Like, I couldn't lose the weight without this. With Picard, he was young and brash, and now he's got to deal with this heart thing because of his foolishness, right? So there is that essence of vulnerability. Like, I can't fix it myself. But then to switch that and say, all right, I tried everything, Picard tried everything, and now no, we're going to fix this. That takes that leap of courage to get that done so that it isn't a vulnerability. And that, it took me a good year of after the surgery, and then I'm fine. I talk about it all the time. It's part of, and I look at it now as a strength of my character. Is like, okay, this wasn't doing working, so I'm going to keep on figuring out a way to make it work for me.
Absolutely. And to the point I made earlier about this was a missed opportunity for Picard to show his crew that taking care of yourself is a good thing, and that even if it means showing that vulnerability, overall it's a positive thing to take care of yourself, right? To be mindful of your needs and do what must be done to make sure you're healthy and functioning and able to do the things that are being asked of you. So, in his context, in terms of, the role, the job of working on a starship, but to your point of just being able to be that person that maybe someone else can look up to and say, hey, this is a thing that's scary to me, but I know this person who's had a good experience or has taken the leap, even for someone that's had a bad experience, right?
Right.
That's a learning moment too.
Yeah. Right. If you learn from it, it's not a mistake.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, we've gone through quite a bit of trivia, but there's a couple more. Do you want to give us a bit of trivia, Stephen?
Sure. So something that was interesting for me to learn was that the producers were originally intending to use the captain's yacht in this episode, but budget constraints forced the use of the shuttlecraft instead. Now, as a kid, when I got the toy of the Enterprise, I was so dismayed that the captain's yacht didn't detach because I wanted to play with that too. But then you realize, at least the series, you never see it. You never see the captain's yacht actually used. You're sort of vaguely aware that it's there. So interesting to know that they were going to early on season 2, they were going to use it, but couldn't because of budget constraints.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that they were going to have a captain's yacht, because at least with my memory, the first time I hear about it is in Nemesis.
I believe it was in the technical manual,
Okay.
the Okuda technical manual. So I think that's where I learned about it. Well, it had nothing to do with the series. It was reading that manual, I believe, was the first place. It was either that or I had one of those maps of the ship that has the lines like this is that.
Right.
It was one of those. It was definitely in print. It was in print where I learned that there was a captain's yacht. But I, once I saw it existed, I wanted to see them use it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we don't see it until Nemesis, right? The
Yeah.
Enterprise E.
Yeah, that's the first time we see it in action that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, Riker's Crimson Force Field, that Geordi's like, oh, he hit us with the Crimson Force Field, is a trick similar to what Captain Kirk did for the Corbomite bluff in Corbomite Maneuver and the Deadly Years. Are you familiar with those episodes?
I am a little less familiar with TOS than I am with other Trek, so.
Yep. We'll just take it. Yes, listeners, if you know, you're nodding in agreement. Yes. It's so funny now that I'm thinking about it, where it's like, you know, if you look at my Star Trek friends, everyone loves TNG.
And I definitely have a fondness for TOS, and I've seen most of it, but I realized I've not seen all of it. And just like any other recent Trek, there are nods back. And actually, I recall you and I watching a Strange New Worlds episode,
Yep.
Spock and Mock,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh my gosh, a Mock time!" Da da da. And then we had to watch that together to like
Yeah.
look at the actual connections.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to brush up on my TOS.
Yeah. Well, maybe I will understand Corbomite Maneuver just a little bit more now that I have that connection to TNG. Well, Stephen, final thoughts on Samaritan Snare.
So this episode made me think about sort of larger life things, right? So thinking about the choices we make in our lives and how we make them. So in terms of what we share and with whom, and how the decision making takes place, how we ask for help and how that differs from how we provide it, and setting healthy boundaries and learning to be aware of your own and others' boundaries. Those are things I sort of pulled from this episode and have taken some time to be reflective in my own life about how these things play out.
Yeah. You know, this episode, like I always know, okay, it's the pack lead, but I always forget how important this episode is, not only with the Pakled story, but with the Picard and Wesley story. Like there's so much continuity with him taking the exams and with Tapestry and his heart and the Nausicaans. And we see the Pakleds and the misunderstanding there. Like it's a really solid episode in the whole story of Next Gen, which I just was really impressed with. It's not a go-to episode for me. And when you said Samaritan Snare, I was like, what on earth? Well, this is going to be fun. But look at all the discussion and points that we got to talk about because of it. So this is a really good episode.
You know, when you asked me to pick an episode, I went to, The Inner Light, All Good Things, sort of the obvious choices. And then I thought, no, I'm going to read some synapses and see what else could be interesting. And this episode, I've honestly forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And it was such a joy to rewatch it and to think about its connection to not just other, like as you mentioned, other parts in TNG, but Star Trek in general. Really, I agree. Really solid episode.
Yep. Yep.
Incoming transmission.
Now, Stephen's going to help us out with our closing script, listeners. So here we go. Take it away, Stephen.
We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts at Galaxy Class Pod, or you can follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcasts.
Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcast with our master feed by searching BQN. This way you won't miss any of our fine shows like All Good Things, Union Federation, History with the Zalagis, Infinite Diversity, What's the T-Bev, Trexperts Quiz, and our newest show, Captain's Couch. So, Stephen, where can people find you when you are enjoying little tea sandwiches and tea? Is that what they're called? Tea sandwiches?
I
Or those little ones with the
the little
crust cut
sandwiches,
off?
like the cucumber sandwiches, right? The
Yeah.
little, I think it's just, yeah, tea sandwiches, I think.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter at King Steve, Steev. And Amy, where can people find you?
Well, I am here on the network co-hosting All Good Things in Union Federation. I am on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, but my favorite place right there in the BQN Collective.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We're putting out more exclusive content for our patrons that you won't want to miss, like It's Green or Amy's Math Moments. With a monthly Patreon subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. Watch your Patreon messages for details. You can go to patreon.com/BQN. A huge shout out to our very own associate producers, Jim McMahon and Davey Willett. We are so grateful for your support.
At this time, we would like to thank our executive producers who make this all possible, and a special thanks to Mark White for our artwork and Joe Keegan for our show music.
Thank you, Stephen, so much for joining us on Galaxy Class. And thank you for beaming aboard. And until next time. You want to say goodbye?
Sure. Thanks, everyone. Pleasure being here today.
Great joy and gratitude.